Taas, andiyan ka?
Yes, sis.
All right, very good. I'm glad to have it. Scott's lunch. I church, nobody wants to sit up front. But Katie. No, I was in red. But I'm saying last Sunday, my neighbor got the bike. So I went over and floated 2 hours. Can you relate to that right now? All right.
I love it.
All right. I thought that was fun. The heat of the moment, the busy times of the season, I think everybody's feeling a little bit that way. So I thought that was a cute one to start with this morning. Welcome to our June office meeting. We've got Rachel, and actually before we start, I would like to introduce you in case you haven't met in person. Jessica DeSena, who's our new front desk person here in East Hampton. Welcome, Jessica. So, all right, let's go. We always start with, well, no, we don't. You know what, I just want to remind everybody, Rachel's a little.
I haven't done
over
this in
there.
a while, so sorry.
You know what, we don't always look at what our core values are that often, so I want to incorporate that back in so that we keep reminding ourselves, one of the things that makes us different in California. So. Also our Y4C2 TES. And before we get started, I'd like to bring up Scott Rabchuk. I promised sensitivity, all we have going today, gotta let him go first. I know we should do bucket fills, but don't worry, we will again. So Scott, come on up. Thank you for being our speaker today. Our microphone picks you up for our Lancaster folks.
Hi, Lancaster folks, how are you?
So I'll just let you tell a little bit about yourself and go.
Thank you so much. Well, good morning, everybody. It is still morning, right? So my name is Scott Rabchuk. Some of you in the room I know, some of you I know really well. I got a buddy back there, we call it Hillcrest. We grew up in the same neighborhood in Westerville. I am a commercial real estate broker. I'm with Hannah Commercial Real Estate, but I am your 2024 president of Columbus Realtors. So, yeah, be careful what you volunteered for. That's probably the message I would send. I guess what I wanted to do was spend a couple of minutes to talk a little bit about what's going on at Columbus Realtors. I'll try to answer some questions for you. Obviously, I've got a past president in here, and many of you who have volunteered on different committees and at different levels who may want to weigh in as well. But I look at Columbus Realtors and my role there as basically doing three things. Columbus Realtors, in my opinion, is here to inform, to educate, and to advocate. When I was asked to kind of step into this seat, my first question was, well, why, right? Why do you want me? And, you know, I would tell you that the commercial real estate side of the ledger, we try to have somebody on the commercial side of the business move through the seats every 4 years. So in the commercial real estate world, we're incredibly relevant to what's going on in your world, and you all are incredibly relevant to what's happening in our world, right? We all work together, even though we are in different maybe business areas. What you are doing in your side of the industry directly reflects what we do, and vice versa. Ultimately, what we're trying to do is we're trying to make Columbus and Central Ohio a better place to live and to work and to raise families, right? I mean, my stage in my career, I kind of teased that I'm in the fourth quarter. I've been at this for a long time. I started in January of '89. I venture to say there's a few in this room that weren't even born yet. So, I'm kind of in this fourth quarter and I look at it as a way of giving back, right? Getting involved at the realtor level. But actually I've been involved most of my career. But many of you know my brother Greg, do you? Yes, no, indifferent. Well, some good for some of you and bad for some of you, right? But anyway, Greg and I kind of cut our teeth together really in the 80s and into the early 90s. We've seen the industry go through an incredible amount of change, right? And it's like a bell curve. You work your way up and then you run into a bump and it kind of moves its way down and it just kind of does this. I would say we're probably in the third or fourth iteration of that during my 35-year career in the industry. And what I would say, I think is incredibly interesting is even though the changes that we are facing are ones that are really, obviously going to change how you do business, it's not a lot different than anything else we've ever been involved in. How many of you were working before agency disclosure came along, right? Remember when agency disclosure came along, everybody thought, oh my God, it's the end of the world. What are we going to do, right? Guide to agency relationships. Again, nobody's going to sign this document. How are we going to, basically work in our industry? I would tell you, we embraced the change. We made the changes we needed to make. And we went to work. And that's what you're going to do. I mean, ultimately, with what's happening at the national level through whether it's the Sitzer Burnett case, the DOJ litigations, or at the state level requirements for representation agreements and what those look like, y'all are going to change the way you do business. And if you haven't already started to do that, you need to do that. You probably have seen that on August the 17th, we're going to be flipping some switches. The first one being the offers of compensation on the MLS, right? Local broker networks and the offer of compensation goes away on August the 17th. So you're already making changes, right? You're already planning for how you're going to handle that. Really, and that all gets down to value proposition for you and your clients, right? How you sell your value proposition and what you bring to the table and how you help them on, whatever their path is, whether it's a buying path or a selling path. You need to be able to, that's a $25 donation to Corpac, thank you. You need to be able to make sure that you're in a position to be able to sell your value to your clients and ultimately win the day. And you'll do that. You will do that. The commercial real estate world, we've been using buyer representation agreements my entire career. And for those of you that are in the commercial world, and I know there's a couple that are in here, that's just what we do. We've always worked in that path. As far as offers of compensation inside a local broker network, and that's what an MLS is. It's a local broker network. Those go away also on August the 17th. So what does that mean? It means you better be able to communicate with the people that you're working with on a day-to-day basis, whether it's your clients or other agents or agencies, because you all need each other, right? And I would tell you, the commercial real estate world, we are very lucky in Central Ohio that we have an incredibly cooperative market. And that's not true in most markets. As a matter of fact, in many markets, it can be incredibly difficult to work with other brokerages and ultimately get paid for what you do, right? And we work in situations every day. I keep looking at Mark and it's one of those deals where, again, if you know your value proposition and you're strong enough to sell it, you will win the day. It's not that big of a deal. So know that Columbus Realtors is going to be putting out material that will hopefully help you on that path. It's going to be sent out in harder form. We're also going to be sending out material and talking with Brent and staff, Craig Hicks, Todd Labor, Matt Warren, names that you may or may not know. They're going to be sending out things on a social media format that hopefully will help you, YouTube videos, those kinds of things. That'll kind of define the changes that are happening and how you can best, obviously put policies and procedures in play in your operations to be able to make sure that you're doing the right things. So those are the two biggest things that I think are kind of coming at people. And again, back to that idea of informing you and educating you. We're doing the informing piece. We're going to do our best to educate you as we get into August, because it's going to come quick, right? I mean, can you believe we're already near the end of June? I mean, and most of us in the real estate world, we have a tendency to think 2, 3, 4 months ahead. I mean, I'm already thinking about October. It's June. So, August will be here before we know it. So the educational piece, comes next, and that'll be providing you with details that hopefully make the path a little bit easier. But the advocating piece continues every single day. And I know Nick can speak to this obviously at the Ohio level, but there are things that are happening nationally and at the state level that are incredibly important to private property rights. Most notably, I think, any of you work with VA buyers, right? So you saw the VA announcement, incredibly important. I don't think that happens unless we go to DC and we sit in front of, our representatives and fight the fight. I mean, and I played a big part in that. If that doesn't happen, there is a big gap that becomes a real problem. And I know that your national association and your state association and your local, for that matter, all of us that were there were kind of swinging for the fences to make change happen quickly. And that VA change is, I mean, it's like moving an ocean liner on a dock. The process to actually make the change in the VA loan process is one that's going to take years. They just put a policy in place to kind of, it's a little bit of a stopgap, right? To help them while that policy change kind of moves. So that's a very big deal. I will tell you, there are some things on the state level that I think are really important to keep an eye on out of the representation agreements. One thing about that I think the way the legislation was written was it was to require all realtors to be required to use a buyer representation agreements. It didn't necessarily include language for licensed real estate agents, right? So to make the playing field equal, the idea was we need to introduce legislation that would essentially say any licensed agent in the state of Ohio is going to need to use a buyer representation. Don't carve out commercial real estate. Because we work with a lot of clients that are out of state that have never signed those documents. They can't. Matter of fact, in many cases, what we run into is we don't have people that have the authority to sign it because you may be working for a real estate director and that director doesn't have authority to sign documents. So there's a little bit of a carve out. But that legislation has been introduced, it's gone through committee, and now will go for vote. And I would tell you that will pass. That, in my opinion, that will pass and will pass quickly. Some other things that are happening, I think that taxing in the real estate world is always on somebody's radar, right? Taxing your real estate fees, a sales tax essentially. That's a national movement. I would tell you that has reared its head again. I don't know that will ever gain the kind of momentum that I think some legislators would like to see it gain, but it's a pot of money that legislators love to chase to try to help, fill a gap. I guess is probably the best way to put it. But we have a pretty good lobby group that keeps an eye on. And then one other item, and then I'll kind of get into a little bit of a Q&A if you guys want. So in the Internal Revenue Code, do any of you use section 199A? The QBID is what it's called, Qualified Business Income Deduction. If you do not, you should be using it every single year if you qualify, right? A QBID basically in the Jobs and Cuts and Tax Act that was passed in 19? Nick, I'm looking at you, 17 or 19? 17, okay. That particular section of the Tax Act will be sunset in 2025. What that does is it takes any of those tax cuts that corporate and or individual and basically just says, okay, you no longer get those benefits. As independent contractors, the QBID was a way for us to be able to kind of level the playing field with those that got corporate tax benefit and write-offs that we otherwise would not have seen. If you don't use that QBID, I would tell you, look at section 199A, talk to your accountant, start to think about why haven't I been using that deduction, particularly if you qualify. And there are qualifying income levels, but I would tell you, there's probably a bunch of people in this room that qualify for that deduction. And essentially, it's a 20% income tax deduction immediately off the top. So think about that. That's an incredibly important piece of tax data that you need to be aware of. So we'll be working on moving that along and hopefully extending that from an association level, both really nationally. And I would tell you there are other tax items that fall into legislation that directly affect the buying and selling side of real estate, like tax deferred exchanges. Tax deferred exchanges are, do any of you do 1031 tax deferred exchanges in here? Okay, so those of us that do it on a, well, often do it quite frequently. Capital gains tax is always on somebody's radar at the federal level. And, you know, the capital gains tax right now is probably as low as it's ever going to be from the federal level. But ultimately, somebody's going to point at that and go, okay, we're going to take the, let's call it 20% or 21% plus the, you know, the additional 4 or 5 that was the, you know, the health act that goes on to it. We're going to change that to 26 or 27 plus the, you know, the healthcare piece, which turns it now to 31. So if you're exchanging a piece of property and you're going to lose 6-8 basis points immediately, that hurts. You're going to feel it. Our market's going to feel it. That's where on the commercial real estate side, I would say we are really good at lobbying our House reps and our Senate reps our senators on the reality of what that means to the marketplace. So that'll be another piece of legislation we're looking at. Other than that, I would say I just met with Brent Swanner. Does Brent come in and talk to y'all? Or Vince?
Not lately, but in the past.
Yeah. So I was with Brent and with Buffy Patterson. You all know Buffy, right? This morning we were talking about some of the things that that we are going to be seeing here as we get toward the third quarter here and really the end of the year. Right? When I was saying October, that's where our heads are. I mean, frankly, I'm kind of a lame duck almost at this point. I'm halfway through my year and I can go, this is as hard as I thought it'd be, right? But Buffy's sweating because she's going, oh my God. So, but really there are things that I know that Columbus Realtors is doing that will be more about brand awareness, right? The realtor brand, what it means to be a realtor, how important it is to you and to your business and to your clients. That awareness campaign, we'll be talking about that. That's a very big deal. And it's something that I would tell you, they're going to do a nice job with that. And then there are some other initiatives that are more around, you know, basically value add for U.S. agents, right? Things that make it easier for you to do business. And, you know, those are things that I think Buffy is working hard on and Brent right now. And those will be delivered here, hopefully by year end. And then obviously, so I didn't want to take too much of your time. So if you all have any questions you may want to ask me or thoughts, comments, I'll be happy to try to answer them. No questions is great. Me too. That works. Yeah, thanks.
Have you started working on verbiage or disclosure of some type to where us as buyers agents can write it into the purchase contract that will protect us in our brokerage when making offers?
Yeah, that's a great question. Here's what I would say is first off, don't write it yourself, right? Obviously stay away from writing any language into the body of a contract, turn that over to counsel, let that be that. But I will tell you from Columbus Realtors perspective, you have representation agreements that provide you with the opportunity to be able to represent your clients, right? You should also have your own agreement. You know, that I'm sure that Keller has got an agreement that you use in a buyer representation format. When it comes to protection for brokerages, there is, and I'm not an attorney. Is there any attorneys in the room? Okay, so there, did I see a hand out back? I thought I did. So what I would say is, what I'm hearing is that brokerage should not be inside the body of an agreement, right? The representation should be inside the body of the agreement. I represent A, you represent B. But the actual fee structure or even a requirement of fee should not necessarily be in the body of a written contract. Many of our agreements are in the commercial real estate world are that way. You know, we'll have agreements that just identify personnel. The agreement that is for brokerage is between brokerage companies, between the listing agent and the buying agent. And that in many cases should stand outside. Now, I've heard on the other side of the ledger, no, absolutely not. You need to drop it into the purchase agreement. I would tell you, follow counsel's advice. That's probably the best way to put it. I mean, I don't know that there's an absolute answer there for you, because I still think, you know, you talk to companies that have been using buyer representation agreements for years. There are what, 12 of them, 12 states, 13 states that have always required buyer representation agreements. And I speak to some of those folks and they say, yeah, we never put brokerages inside the body of a contractual obligation. That's between broker and broker. And then there are others that say, absolutely, drop it into the agreement, because then there is no question on who gets paid out. So
So
I don't have an absolute answer for it.
okay, if I understand you correctly, you are saying that when I write a purchase order on behalf of a buyer, I am not to put in the sellers to compensate the
That's not
buyer.
what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying.
I'm sorry, please clarify.
Yeah, so, and this is my opinion, okay, my opinion. On the commercial real estate side, what we do is we identify most of the time the brokerage that's being represented and, by buyer and by seller. The agreement that Mark and I have might be on a separate piece of paper between brokerages. Because in many cases in the commercial real estate world, at least the world that I live in, the brokerage is not a part of the transaction. The transaction is between buyer and seller. Brokerage is between brokerages, right? I have a separate agreement, a listing agreement that protects me and how I get paid. In that agreement, I have the authority to be able to compensate Mark or any other licensed agent in the state of Ohio, provided against inside the body of my agreement. If that's not the case, I need to make sure I identify that with that particular agent, right? I've got to let them know, hey, listen, I hope you have an arrangement with your buyer for how you are going to be compensated. And that's truly the new, kind of the new world order that the residential real estate world is moving to, is the world that we've been living in most of our careers on the commercial real estate, well, all of my career on the commercial real estate side. So what I'm saying is, you have to go based on advice of counsel. Use your best judgment when you are putting together a contract, because you are not an attorney. You do not want to be driving language that puts you in jeopardy or your broker in jeopardy. I'm not sure if I'm clarifying, but I guess what I'm saying
So
is,
basically, we have the commission compensation form separately from the purchase contract. That's what you say,
I am.
yeah.
Or you
And
say,
that-
but you should
and
be
that-
sending an LOI ahead of the agreement.
Yeah,
I mean, are we just all commercial agents now?
yeah. No, here's what I would tell you is, if you don't have an agreement that protects you as a buyer and a seller, you've got a challenge, right? Because how many of you have been running with buyers for months, only to find out they bought a house, right? From your cousin Joe or Jill or whatever, right? It happens. You should not let that happen, right? You should have a written agreement that defines exactly how you get paid and how you will not get paid, in the representation process. So, no, you're not necessarily going into the commercial real estate world, but I will tell you that your methods of doing business are going to change. They have to. You don't have a choice. The way legislation is being passed, it's now a requirement. So you have to define how you want to write your agreement, and you have to make sure that your broker is comfortable with that language, whether it's Buffy, Keller. I mean, you all have the documents. You all have the documents. There's no question you have them. You just have to be able to articulate them to your users.
Something I just to piggyback on top of what you said, I asked Todd, attorney at the state level, I can't think of his last name, to save my life right now.
Talk about.
And he indicated that he did think that would become part of the purchase contract. And then also Joe Baroni, when he did a class for us,
Right.
said the same thing, and he said, actually, that would make life easier for the title companies. Because it's gonna be spelled out and help everybody,
Right.
disclosure at every level. So I do believe that is going to be the case. I don't know that, it will be a separate form. Will we get language if it's not a separate form? Absolutely. So that kind of helped answer your
Hey,
question.
we'll get you that as soon as we have it. This is all such a moving target
It is.
and
I had someone that
and that's not gonna come from the association. They're not gonna write that language. That'll happen at the brokerage.
It was in the contract. It was actually in the contract.
You're already seeing it in contract.
Yeah, someone just used one a couple weeks
Right.
ago, just probably.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I don't know, and I think just you.
We already sent the buyer broker agreement to DOD.
Yeah.
But.
Right, and I think.
And the purchase contract, yeah.
Yeah, I think the important thing to keep in mind is that it's until you have documentation that's gone through council. And until it's been something that, frankly, you can trust and feel good about. Don't step outside your comfort zone. Don't start to do things that put you or your broker in jeopardy. That's the easiest way for me to answer, what is a very challenging question, right? Because y'all have been doing business a certain way, right? And now the script is gonna be flipped by requirement, which is gonna make you, in my opinion, either gain market share or lose market share. If you're willing to change and you're willing to change quickly and properly, you're gonna gain market share. If you are not, and you're gonna resist, you'll lose market share. It's just that simple. I mean, may sound direct, but it is. It's that simple.
The frustration, I think, that everybody can't verbalize like me, is we got a hard date of August 17th, so 55 days or whatever
By
it is.
representation agreements, right?
We don't have any, we're saying it's gotta go through council, it's gotta be, if we had something to look at and we can analyze it, then we can study it and learn how we're going to do it. We just don't have anything yet.
Well, what does your broker provide?
Nothing yet, because I'm sure it's gotta,
We have the buyer
it's still
broker.
general.
Yeah.
But again, how's that gonna be handled? We don't, you're saying in other brokerages, I guarantee they're not looking like we are right now. We're ahead of the game. I still feel behind.
Well, I think, and that's, first off, it's not, in my opinion, the National Association, the state and the local association's requirement to provide you with documentation that your broker now has to make policy and procedures. It's your broker's responsibility to provide you with documents that give you policy and procedure. Columbus Realtors and or any other realtor association should provide you with documentation that can be used on a lot of different platforms, right? More general in nature. But I know our documents, all of the documents that I use at Anna Commercial Real Estate are driven by counsel. We don't have documents that are provided by, for example, Columbus Realtors that we use on a day-to-day basis. We can use them, but I would tell you in many cases, we are asked not to, because we are asked to use our documents because they know that those documents will pass their legal challenge. And it's not easy, it's just serious, yeah. I mean, it's, this is one of those things where, again, you'll get through it, right? A year from now, you'll go, well, that was a great deal, right? It's just like agency disclosure.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those, we're very much in the gray no man's land, no woman's land, whatever it might be. Because as of right now, we're still covered by the offer of compensation, nonetheless.
That's correct.
And that doesn't go away until the 17th of August. So as of right now, you don't have to write that in there. You're covered by the MLS, it's guaranteed compensation. It is post August 17th that's going to have to be answered. And no, I'm not that I'm aware of as a broker, we don't have exactly the document to make that happen.
But you all are in states that have a buyer broker.
We are, but that's not something that's shared down with us at the local level from Keller.
That's surprising. I would think Keller would have it and they could form it.
So we're talking about having buyer agency to bring inside of our clients. I've used it exclusively for 22 years, except for once. We're talking about if your client is shopping around and buys a house without. So I have agencies signing everyone. But I've had 3 different brokers tell me over 22 years that there's really no enforcement behind that contract. So who's going to protect me if my buyer goes to shop?
Well, that gets
What legal, who's going to talk?
yeah. So that goes to the strength of your agreement, number one. Then it goes to your broker and counsel. Because I would tell you, our agreements, the way my agreements are written, it's incredibly clear what my role and responsibility is and what my client's role and responsibility is. If they step outside of that, I have the ability to be able to adjudicate them. I can litigate them.
Right.
And that's, you don't want to ever have to go. If your relationship is strong enough with your prospect, you're not going to go there. You just won't, right? Good communication, open communication, your integrity, your professionalism, all those things that keep them coming back, right? If you're there, it'll be fine.
I've never had that problem, but I'm curious.
Yeah.
If since the check doesn't come to me, it goes to the broker. Sure. Is the broker going to provide legal and financial support to go after it for my money?
That's a great question. That's a hell of a question.
I mean, in the commercial world, it's a whole different, financial observation of how you make a decision on whether you're gonna bring legal counsel in to defend your compensation. I know we've run across this conversation before between us, that, you know, what is the legal representation? And it comes down to, it is a financial decision as a brokerage to make a decision. I mean, if you have let's say there's a $3,000 compensation that is not being paid, and it costs you $5,000 to get it, do you make that decision to go forward? I mean, who wins?
And we've taken it to our ALC to help us make a policy on it, or to be.
We're looking at that. We're looking at documentation. Believe me, we're all well aware of what Scott is talking about. We
And
sat
that's-
reviewed documents earlier this week.
And that's one of the reasons why I talked to Todd, and then what Joe said about, if you're representing someone and you have that signed buyer representation agreement, which I know we've not gotten into deeply yet, this just came out last week, and got 3 classes coming up on that. But if it's spelled out there and you're working with that client, by having it as part of the purchase contract, that helps solidify that agreement for you to get paid at the through the brokerage, you get paid at the table for both sides, whether you have the seller or the buyer. So that it's part of the closing and everybody is acknowledging it before they sign off on that settlement statement.
Can we put a lien on a house or commission?
No, but commercial agents can.
Yes,
Commercial agents, I was gonna say that, the ability to leave because of compensation is limited to commercial. Transactions, residential does not have.
And you don't
that,
have 90 days.
Maybe it's opportunity. Yeah, I think so. I mean, it took us years to get that for the commercial side. It took us a long, long time. And that's something that had to go through the State House, Tracy. That wasn't through the association or whatever. But Arnold, that's a great question, and Mark has the appropriate answer there. It's a decision on a case-by-case basis. I've had a couple agents come to me and say, hey, I need to know that you're gonna defend me on this. And you know, I don't know that we will. We're not gonna spend $5,000 to go after 3. I can tell you that right now. Because guess what? In a lot of cases, 70% of that $3,000 is yours and only 30% is ours. So are you gonna pay 70% of that $5,000 to do it? I mean, we're partners in this as a brokerage in our relationship as agents. So there is no blanket statement on yes, we'll do it, no, we won't do it. That would be foolish as a business to make that decision on an absolute basis. But I can tell you, we are prepared to go to bat for our agents, but we're gonna do it together, right? Because it's not all our money, it's not all your money. So it's just something that we're gonna have to tackle, and this is a new world that we're heading into. So to say that here's what we've done for the last 20 years is irrelevant, right?
And,
Because
you know,
what's going on.
this conversation about are you gonna back me suing, it could be totally eliminated or partially eliminated by this, by a high level of communication. And that's why Dana said we do have 3 classes coming up between now and the end of the month. Attend one of them. We have one tonight at 6 o'clock. But it's understanding this buyer's agency agreement, understanding the value you bring to the table. Kathy has had a class here earlier, and she has she talks in her presentation, she has a 30-minute conversation about the value of realtors before she gets the price or anything. We need to really express ourselves. And what do we bring to the table? You know, and you know, why do I want to work with you versus you? Because now we have to explain that, and then the client will make that final decision. If you have everyone seen the new agreement? Has everyone seen the new buyer's
They're
representation?
sitting on your tables here too.
Yeah.
I mean, I would master that document.
There's nothing in that document that's scary,
No,
because they should been doing this exact same stuff that's in this document, whether you use it or not. The biggest thing, and you brought up a key point, and this is from a broker's level, is it's not between, compensation isn't between the buyer and seller. It's between brokers. So my question is,
having your client sign this should be very easy. The biggest question is, and I want to ask every one of you in here, I mean, I've been doing this 29 years. I know what buyers are paying to buy houses today. How many buyers are going to be willing to pay us compensation if the sellers aren't willing to compensate a buyer broker? So not very many, because I know my sellers wouldn't do it. So my standpoint is from a brokerage level, how many, we don't need to have the meetings from us coming in here and going over this. We need to have the meetings of how many brokerages in Ohio or California. It doesn't concern me because I live in Ohio. How many brokerages from a brokerage standpoint are getting together and talking about how they're educating their seller or how they're educating their agents to go in their listing presentations and say, here's what compensation is going to happen. You're gonna be asked to compensate, but I mean, is that discussion happening before August 17th?
You can't have that discussion. That's exactly why we're in this situation.
Well, you can't discuss it, but how do you how do you?
You just said to have everybody get together and talk about
Okay, not get
compensation.
together,
It's no
not
longer-
talking about compensation.
Doing-
How to educate,
How many meetings have we been in like this?
Yeah.
I mean, how are you? I mean, if I'm the only one confused on this, I know my value to my buyer, okay? I have no problem with that.
It's no longer between broker and broker.
Right.
That's the difference. It's now, if a listing agent may get a very small level of compensation where they will offer the buyer brokerage nothing for bringing to the table. And the agreement here is if that be the case, now you have to have an agreement with the buyer itself themselves. Just as you list an exclusive right to sell property, you're gonna have an exclusive right to buy agreement with these clients. And then they are become responsible.
First of all, if any of you are signed up for my class this afternoon at the house we're going to, I am going to do a complete listing presentation. Just as I did with the homeowners who have, I've listed the home with, and my Mary and Denny, I have told them exactly the pushback I got from my homeowners, how we discussed commission. So I'm gonna show you what I did to do that. And I'm hoping 80% of it was legal, but.
Yeah.
It's what I will do.
It sounds like 500% is violation.
Okay, but let me tell you.
Great qualifier.
Just don't be there, Mark. It's all I'm gonna tell you. No, but here's what I heard is, first of all, I started making this shift 3 months ago. The first time I read the decision of the course. I started making the shift by looking at the overall broad strokes of where we were going, okay? So I have had a dozen listing appointments already where I have gone through my role, your role as a buyer's agent, my value, your value, and then we've had the commission. What are you gonna pay me? Here is your opportunity, if you wish, and it's negotiable to pay the buyer's agent. Now, what do you want to compensate if it, so I've already had that discussion, so I can tell you what's happening. And then I'm going to address how I dealt with that with an agent this week. What's happening is, and let me go back prior to this decision being made. Here's the way listing agents always did it. We sat down with our homeowners. We said it's a 6% commission. The seller said, is your commission negotiable? We always negotiated ours and we protected yours, okay, as a buyer's agent. That's why we're in trouble. Okay, so now what we're doing is we're sitting in front of homeowners and my ask to my homeowner is 3%. I have sold them my value, okay? I've said my ask, and you winced, and this is where we have, I'm saying, my ask to you, my commission's negotiable, but what I'm asking you for is 3%. And then we have that discussion and they agree what they're going to pay me. What I'm finding is, because I'm sitting in front of them and I've just done my value presentation, they're more often than not saying, yes, we think you're worth 3%. We're going to pay you that, okay? But then when I go to you as a buyer's agent, they're saying, well, wait a minute, now that I don't have to pay them, then they are putting your commission at 1% or 1.5%, okay? So what I'm more often doing is giving up part of mine still to bring you up to some level of equity, all right? Now, I had an agent say to me last week, Kathy, what makes me really mad is when I go to closing and I see that I took 1.5 or 2% and the listing agent got 3%. And I said, okay, You didn't cry for the past 3 decades when I was giving up my money so that you got 3. That's besides the point, but here's what I'm saying to them. I cannot fight for your commission. That's illegal now. I cannot do that. I can sell your value, which I've added to my listing presentation. I've added a 10-minute dissertation to my listing presentation, selling the seller on the value you bring to the table when you bring a buyer to their home. Now, they don't care about you as a person. They don't care about whether or not you make enough money, but they do care about the value you bring to them as homeowners in perhaps bringing more money to the table, a smooth transaction, getting bumps over the road, over into the they do care about that. So they're willing to pay you something for that. But I cannot sit there as a listing agent and demand, beg, or try to get that dollar figure up. That's what's become illegal. That's your job now. When you sit down with your buyers with this document, that is your job to fight for your commission. You see the difference between commission and value? I can sell the value. I cannot demand a commission for you. And so I want you as buyer's agents to understand the predicament we're in. I do recognize as a listing agent how, and this one agent said to me, we all need to stand together. Okay, I recognize as a listing agent, I have to be an advocate for you as a buyer's agent. I have to, because I do believe you're valuable. I know how hard you work. I know what you bring to the table. And I do not want to go through this transaction with a for sale by owner, which is where we're going if we don't have buyer's agent. But at the same time, I have to look at that seller and say, now that I showed the value of this buyer and the buyer's agent, what do you wish to compensate them, if anything? It can be 0, it can be 1, 2, 3, it can be a flat figure. You tell me what you would like to do. That's the most I can do.
Just to interject, what I would say is I don't think you're in a predicament. I think you have an opportunity. And the reality is it just depends on how you want to look at it. If you want to look at it as a predicament, well, guess what? It probably is, right? If you want to look at it as an opportunity, it gets back to that point that I was making earlier, that go get market share. There's enough business out there, for God's sakes. Go get yours. Don't make excuses. Go out there and get it, right? I mean, in the commercial real estate world, that's the way we look at it. There's more than enough business out there. Be smart, no buts. Be smart, be professional, and go get it. I mean, because you will wear yourself out trying to, for lack of a better term, wade your way through challenges as opposed to making changes and getting it. Those are the things that are important.
But
All right, go ahead.
So, going back to the buyer agreement, you're saying now that agreement is between the buyer and us.
Yes.
That is correct.
Buyers are paying us our fee straight out. It's no longer a compensation between broker and broker, it's buyer and me.
No.
It's an either or.
So
It's not necessarily
they
just.
now cut me the check
No, it's
to my name or to it back to you. And then
It's
you
illegal.
take my fee.
Yeah, no.
What?
Gotta work.
Oh, that-
As an agent,
I'm taking like way too much.
Right.
This is kind of off.
But he's right, Arnold, it's either or.
It is.
It's
It's either or.
from them.
It's still between the brokers and them.
Yeah.
But we're saying it's between me and the buyer, it's really not.
Scott, can I just,
Yeah.
in closing, thank you, Kathy. That was a great explanation of what's really happening in this world. Number one, we can never say, let's stand together. That's called antitrust. That's illegal, okay, in the country that we live in. It's part of the reason we are where we are with the lawsuit that we had. So if you see anything on Facebook, like, hey, we need to boycott this, whoever, don't do it, okay? Don't get involved, don't be a part of that. That is not just illegal, it's highly illegal. And it's called collusion, it's antitrust, it's all of that. Our commissions are and always have been negotiable. Okay, always. So let me ask you, what's the standard rate? There is no standard. That's your answer. There is no standard. Here's what I charge. That's what Kathy was saying. Here's what I charge as a listing. Here's why it's important, I think, as a listing agent, that you offer compensation to a buyer broker. Okay, this is what they do for you, Mr. Seller, on behalf of their buyers. So, that's it, and we can continue this conversation as a brokerage. Scott, as our association president, is doing their best to give us the tools that's in their realm of responsibility to get to them. But in the end, it's us as brokerage that have to operate and do the right thing and educate.
I don't know if it help you, but the office really backed me up when I tried to make a mission and it went. It went every day. Again, that's a business decision you have to make, and the office gonna back us, they back me up what? The attorney fee, no, they back me up what, the communication back and forth with the other party, and we didn't really have to use an attorney, but I already planned to pay my own money for the attorney if I had to, because the principal and everything, so that's how I roll. But I don't need the office to back me up with the money, but I need them to back me up as an office and they.
Yeah, and as, just so everybody knows, it's a part of your independent contractor agreement, my independent contractor agreement, that as an office, we are responsible to cover expenses, legal expenses, that on a proportionate basis as to how much money is involved that would come to the brokerage versus how much that would come to you as an agent. So if a lot of you are agents that pay in the full cap and then you get 100% of your commission. Well, that's going to be 100% of your responsibility in that situation. If there's a commission out there that's company dollar is collected by the brokerage, kept by the brokerage, it'd be that portion or that percentage that will be responsible to pay as we fight it. But it's a decision that's going to be made together, right, Trey? I mean, that's it. That is, there's no blanket statement on it. Period. I'm telling you, that's gonna be, so.
I have one question.
Jay,
I'm sorry, did you just say that once we're capped, that the brokerage is no longer gonna help the attorneys?
well, we'll help. The fee involved would be, again, if we're going after commission dollars, if we're not going to get any, it would be your responsibility to pay for that attorney. Yeah.
And Scott, can I ask a question? Because I really, this is another thing, just irritates the heck out of me. There was an email that came from the Columbus Board of Realtors this week. I think it was from Columbus Board. And I would love your opinion and your opinion for discussion. It said, a reminder to all realtors that it is not ethical to choose to show homes or not show homes based on commission paid. And that makes me so pissed off because it's not an ethics decision. It's a business decision.
Yes.
I choose not to work for $1,000 or for free. So the buyer has the opportunity to choose another agent who will work for free. But I am not, that is not an ethical or moral decision I'm making to work for free or not. And I really take offense at the Columbus Board telling me I'm not ethical because I will not work for 1%. Many of you know I'm in a battle with Ryan Holmes right now because because they are paying me $500 on a $400,000 home. That is not an ethical decision. That is, I choose not to work for $500 and bring a buyer to your business. Now, if my buyer wants to go to another realtor who will work for $500, that's their choice to do that.
The DOJ has already come out and said they're waiting for you to do that, so they can come back after us.
Good luck with that.
Yeah,
That'll be interesting.
yeah,
That's all.
it's just so,
It'll be interesting.
that moral judgment that I will, that I am choosing not to represent a buyer because the person has said, I'm paying you X amount of dollars, is
Yeah.
offensive
I
to
think
me.
the question.
And for the board to send that out to 10,000 agents is to me, needs to be addressed.
I don't know that I saw it, but, I guess
It's
my
about
question.
$1.5 million, actually. I think it was an NAR thing.
Yeah.
Hey, Kathy, the ethics part of that is, let's say you are representing a buyer.
You have a representation.
You've got a representation agreement, you know that, and in that conversation is, look, if you're unable to pay that, I'm not going to show that to you. That would be something that you would have to go, but if it's in the best interest of the client, that's where the ethics, if you're not working in the best interest of the client, that's where the ethics comes into play.
So this week, I had the first time I saw a home on the MLS that offered zero compensation. My buyer asked to see 3 homes. That was one of them. I have just signed with them that they are paying me 3%. So what I did was I went back to them and said, here's the 3 homes. I just want to make you aware that this home is offering zero compensation. Do you want to see it or not? And they said, no, take it off the list.
Which is
That's a good job.
Okay.
You did your job, no argument.
if you had not said that,
Yeah.
not even made them aware of it,
Yeah.
there's where the ethics violation comes into play. You're hiding stuff or steering
Yeah.
what they do.
No.
Yeah, I wanna know if it's legal to explain, not legal, but from a broker. If I explain the cost of a buyer, if they have to compensate versus, it's legal to say, housing prices really isn't affordable for the buyer. Okay, so are you allowed to get into, okay, are you gonna compensate the buyer's agent? Somebody may have to pay their own fee, which means you may, because we all know it's gonna have.
Scott, I think, started out his whole conversation is, you now need to become your listing agent's best friend.
Right, okay.
And so maybe the whole conversation is, I
Okay.
have a qualified buyer for the way you presented your house. And it's your buyer, because right now, they could, that listing agent could, their buyer could have said, yeah, I'll compensate them for that. But in the MLS, they cannot put what that compensation is. So you need to get on the phone, and your listing agent needs to become your best friend. You need to become your professionalism needs to escalate to XYZ level. And if you may have that call, and they may say, hey, yeah, we will. And then you could create maybe an outside agreement, get that document over there. If we buy our house, we would be
I want to
compensated.
make sure I understand what you say.
Yeah, I think this will go on for hours.
Yeah.
I guess what I would say is that, you know, at the end of the day, you all at Keller need every other real estate brokerage to communicate and cooperate. You just do.
That's what I was trying to say.
You don't control.
I mean, I wasn't trying to collude, I wasn't trying to antitrust, that's what I'm.
And what I mean by that is that nobody has market share to the point where you're just gonna say, this is the way it is. It's not that way. You're gonna need to be able to communicate with one another, because the buyer that Jensen represents is gonna become a seller maybe for somebody else.
Yeah.
It's just gonna continue to move. So be incredibly clear in your communication, and frankly, to your point, be very clear with other brokerages and the people you work with. These people need to be your ally, not your enemy, for God's sakes. You know, you wanna work with one another.
You now have 10,000 agents to
Yeah,
put
I'll
on your
finish.
Christmas list.
Yeah, I'll finish and then I'll get out of your way. So I usually kind of end these discussions with a couple of thoughts. So first off, you only have so many heartbeats in the day, right? Use them to make a difference, not just real estate. Real estate is great. You know, this industry has been incredibly good to me and my family. I mean, incredibly. So one of the ways that I give back is through the Columbus Realtors side of what I do. But on the civic side, do things in your community that make them better places to live, to work, and to raise a family. So heartbeats, remember that. And then lastly, 3 things. If you do this every day, I'm telling you, your life will be so much better. Do something hard, do something fun, or do something for somebody else. Every single day. If you do those 3 things, I can tell you, you will have a very good day, have a really good life, right? So anyway, thank you for giving me a little bit of your time.
Thank you.
Yeah. You can work on your 10. Sorry.
So, I mean, keep in mind that this buyer's rep agreement is the footprint. Your presentation is critical to that. I mean, just to sit down and run through this, you need to really go through your value proposition on both ends of the deal. It's just.
Let's go back to your last comment, when you said that's right, well, so if the county offer whatever the amount to the buying agent, she have to offer the same amount to all the agents, she cannot offer a different amount to different agents, right?
Yes, that would be very illegal.
So,
I'm not sure that they, everything's negotiable, they don't have to offer. the
this
same
tax, you
amount.
have to offer extra to everybody.
But it's also negotiable, so each contract, depending on what the purchase price on that, it
Let's
could
see,
be.
that's how we get to run it definitely right.
There's nothing stable. You're so used to stability.
Everything's.
We got a long meeting, so let Taylor wants to go ahead.
And that's why we're gonna have these other sessions to go deep in this, into this and what strategies and all that. We are gonna talk about some generalization, but today, but anyway, we got other things we wanna talk about. Anybody have a bucket fill, anything good to share?
Today's my 15th anniversary with my wife.
Happy anniversary.
And you're here,
She's over too.
you should be taking her somewhere. No. 15 years putting up with you, you better do something special.
Something embarrassing.
Anybody else have something good to share?
My real estate mentor and mother-in-law, Ann Salyer, just turned 90 today.
Oh, wow.
She retired last year after 50 years in the business. Lifetime award, lifetime achievement award.
Amazing.
Here's her favorite story. First interview with the broker. She went in, talked to the broker, and he said to her, "Little lady, my advice to you is go home and raise your." She left, left there, went to another broker, and within a year, she was a leading salesperson.
Challenge accepted.
Don't make her mad.
Ann was one of the first agents I met when I went to the Johnstown Area Realty Associations back in '96.
Very cool. Anybody else have something good to share? It can be real estate, professional, or personal, whichever. Kimberly?
Well, as of July 1st, I will be in the business for 34 years and I'm still standing. But I'm still standing.
Anybody else? For those of you who've been with us for a while, we had a little gal that worked as a substitute at our front desk here for a while and in Granville for a while. Her name was Amy Schottner, and she's actually, I met her mom when my triplets were 8 months old and Kelly's triplets were 6 months old. We met in the foyer of Walmart, of all places. We both had 2 boys and a girl, and became the best of friends. So Amy subbed for us for a while. She's actually getting married on Saturday. Blair's the maid of honor, and so my son's coming to town from Florida. So that's my good thing. I'm excited about, I feel like one of my own kids is getting married. So. Anybody else have something great to share?
Yeah.
All right, let's go.
That's not what I meant.
Anybody in here who has a birthday in June, raise your hand. Happy June birthday. We're gonna skip that one.
This is my month. Father's Day, birthday, anniversary.
Who has a June work anniversary with us?
No.
Nobody? All right. Go ahead. I already did it. All right, we have some newcomers, a couple are unlisted on here yet, but if you are new to us in the last month, please stand up.
Already staying.
Barnabas.
I'm sure you want to stay out.
Yeah. Real quick, so we can put a name with the face, stay standing, stay standing. Tell us your name, if you're newly licensed or where you came from. We'll start with you, Barnabas.
Yeah, I am relatively new licensed. I was licensed back in September. And I came from Mobile here, so.
Glad to have you.
Barnabas, I'm middle.
No,
Oh, yeah, that one, yeah.
You know, well, I have a testimony.
He's testing tomorrow, so you'll be on the board now. So he was at the Keller in Columbus, went to Dayton and came back.
As far as I'll be testing on the 29th this month.
Very good.
Lindsay Bailey, licensed last month, from Atlanta, was licensed there.
He was at KW Atlanta, so we're glad to have her.
Julie Woods, I'm licensed last month. Congratulations.
Welcome, welcome.
I've been licensed for 10 years in Texas and 3 or 4 in Atlanta.
Nice.
Very good. I got licensed 2 weeks ago, and I'm from Golden.
Very good. Well, we're happy to have you on. Thank you. These are new faces. You're not new.
One more. I just brought on a new intern, Graham, Weidenheimer. He said he was sitting out there, I don't know where he went, but he's from OSU Fisher School of Business, studying real estate. He's working as an intern, working to get his license in he'll be graduating in August and he'll be working to get his license by the end of this year. He's wherever he went, he's not out here right now. If you see a new kid running around, please say hello and let him know he's very good.
All right. Want to thank our culture champions for the month. We had our fabulous day on the Broadview Golf Course last Friday. And so thank you to Zena Molnar, who's chair of our fun committee, Tracy and Matt Dixon, Liz Scott for helping put all that together. And Ann Sullivan for hosting our ALC luncheon on her patio prior to it. So thank you all of you for your generosity. Greatly appreciated. We're gonna kind of go short on this because we've got the classes
We
coming
got
up.
some classes coming up. One will be tonight.
Here's the summary. I put copies of the new buyer agreement around the room. It's on Dotloop. From my understanding that our logo will populate into it. Once you use it, but Rachel's working with Dotloop on that to make sure that's working. Here are the quick bullets on it, because we're not gonna go into it deep right now. It can be terminated by the agent or the buyer with 7 days notice. So if you get into an agreement with somebody, they can terminate with you or you with them with 7 days notice. So if the agreement is for 2 months and after 2 weeks it isn't working for you, the buyer or you, either one can give the other one 7 day notice. Second bullet, there is a holdover period. If you show them a home, then the buyer terminates, you are protected. It's a protection period, very similar to the listing agreement. You're protected on that listing for the time you put as the holdover period. So it's just like in the listing agreement, 90 days, whatever that period is to protect you if they move on to something else. Third bullet, any disputes, they don't go, you're not writing complaints to the division. Any disputes are to be mediated or arbitrated. And this avoids using the courts, lawyers, et cetera, and it simplifies the process. So Columbus Realtors will have an arbitration committee put together. Fourth bullet, you cannot collect any commissions in excess of the amount you put in the buyer's agreement. So if you're charging X percentage and the seller is offering compensation greater than X percentage, you cannot pocket that additional commission. Now, there will be the ability to amend an agreement you have in place, but it needs to be done prior to in writing, and you'll have to have conversations about that. So during our classes, we're going to talk about strategies around it. For example, if a builder is offering a bonus or something along those lines. And then the last one I wanted to share, just again, this is a bullet. It clearly spells out how the buyer's obligations to pay their agent can be satisfied by any commission being offered by the seller. So if any offered commissions don't fully satisfy what the buyer's agent is going to charge that buyer, it obligates the buyer to pay that difference. So read through it, come to the classes. Mark's doing 2, I'm doing 1. Come to us with questions. In addition to understanding this document, we're going to talk about strategies around it. So that's what I wanted to make sure that we talked about today.
Oh, there's 2 more bullets. You forgot.
Well,
Not to forget, it's just we don't have time for it, but I think it's important since we have a large group here today. Number 1 additional bullet would be is that if you're not using the buyer's agency agreement, you're working with people, you open yourself up to another lawsuit. Dale and I just attended the legal and legislative update earlier this week, and that was one of the things they brought up. The second bullet is July 1 is the date where we all have to use the buyer's agency agreement. I know August 17th is a cutoff before you get the compensation, but the idea is for you to start practicing. We need July 1 is the day you start using the buyer's rep agreement. So in compliance for our compliance files, this is one of the first things we're going to be calling you out on is where's your buyer's rep agreement?
it's on a different slide.
And you need to get it first. You don't get your buyer's rep agreement signed at closing. You get it signed before you show them the first home.
There's two other good little points is it addresses contemporaneous offers, so you don't have to use a separate document for that going forward. It also, takes care of the phishing scam piece of it, because it discloses that. We're gonna go in depth. I just wanted to make sure you had some of the nuts and bolts of it, and I have another slide, Mark, that talks about, we put it in fact,
Okay.
which is right there. And so here are our classes, like I said, today at 6, Tuesday at 1, and next Wednesday at 10:30. So, come to one of those. Megan?
I don't really have a lot for you guys, other than obviously now we're through that blackout period. We have been for a couple weeks. I've only had a handful of issues with the new way to submit your commissions and command. If you have any issues, or if you need some one-on-one, just get with me. We'll schedule a time. I'll walk you through it. It's real simple. And so far, everybody that I've had to fix things with, it's been oh, I just have to do that. And it's real easy. So if you're having issues, just get with me. I'll show you what to do.
Okay. Go get to the next slide. Isn't that? Oh, okay. No, no.
I'm gonna show it, but, so this cost, yeah, this is just a new place in command. It's KW IQ, and it's a little, icon on the bottom right corner of your, command if you're using command. And it literally, you can ask it any question, any kind of like, language or anything, and it's all education, like real estate education. So buyers, open houses, listing presentations, anything that has to do with anything. It's a quick link to get answers about real estate.
Easy AI.
Oh, this is a new thing that we just did.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, this is just a new, URL, kwgcrclasses.com. It is a link to our YouTube channel, so if you wanted to rewatch this, everything that we Zoom goes on our YouTube channel, and this is just a quick link to that, so it's public, anyone, can hop on and look at old meetings, old classes. We have a lot of stuff, like from the beginning about like the settlement and the buyers, what's going on. So anyway, kwgcrclasses.com.
And you can also find us if you go to our KWGC Agent Resources page. It's there too to get to our YouTube channel. All right, Mega Camp is coming up August 12th through the 15th. I've seen a few of you already signed up. If you haven't, I recommend you do. It's a great day and a half of learning lots from top agents from all around the country.
Dana Jensen.
You have a room block?
No, you have to, once you do your registration, you get the ability to get a room.
We're not all.
No, because we can't. You have to one-on-one, every registration gets one room.
Okay.
So, and we got Buckworth the Fairmont. Okay. All right, let's talk about our cappers this month. We've got Zach, so congratulations to him. He's in Croatia on vacation. Congratulations to our head of the class, Fabian. I don't know, is Fabian here? First listings. This month we have Katab, Mallory, Tisha Waddell, and that's with Keller Williams, not her first ever, and Wilbur. So congratulations on first listings. Same with first closings to Andy, Ken, and Ken. You probably had one way back when, but who's first with Keller Williams? Katab and Priscilla. I saw Priscilla somewhere. Congratulations. Our next one is part of her. All right, if you've not looked at our numbers for this month, these are some pretty impressive numbers. This is Columbus Realtors numbers. These are our numbers, and here's the difference. As you can see, we're beating our competitors out. Closed units by 13%, closed volume 29%, listings taken 24, listings sold 59, listings sold volume 97%. We're selling the expensive homes, guys. Way to go. Contracts written by 6% and contracts written volume by 24. We have a format of this. You can get rid of Rachel and I and put you in here and use this in your listing presentation. I recommend you do it, or on social media.
If you want it, you can just email me and I'll send it to you.
All right. Congratulations, Kit, one more time, to Ben Jones. He was our top individual. Yeah. It's like there. Woo, our top individual, gross commission for the month.
Nice.
Nice month, Ben Jones. I'm not gonna go through all of these. I'm gonna let you guys take a look. but they'll be on our screen afterwards, but you know what? There's some great numbers up there. Congratulations. Our top individual closed volume. Our top teams with gross commission, teams are 2. And we've got the Next Move Columbus, like it's hard to see, I'm sorry for the lighting, which is Justin Bruce and Ben Crumples down in Lancaster. Thank you. Top teams written. Nice, great numbers again. Yeah. Top teams closed. You're in the room. And then our top groups, which are 3 or more. We had Kathy's group, nice month, guys. And there your top group written. I see a lot of you in the room. Nice job, nice job, nice job. Our top groups closed. Woo woo. We'll go back first. You have to do that first. Yeah. Back. There we go. I'm not gonna be able to see. All right, nice job, everybody. Also, these are some of our regional stats. Tracy Pepper's group is number 1 in the region right now. That's amazing. Next Move Columbus is number 3 in the region right now. Again, that's in their category. So nice numbers. Wait, we've got one on the bottom, we can't see. And the Dixon group is number 20 in the region. Nice job, guys. All right, not gonna go through the calendar. You can read the calendar yourself. I do want to mention that we're closing early on July 3rd. Get everybody out of here before red light boom. We're closed on the 4th. Office will be open, but closing early on Friday the 5th, just so you know. In addition to that, there was one more thing. Oh, the family, next month in place of our office meeting, we're gonna have a family picnic. It's not going to be here, so I just want you to hold the date. All right, as we mentioned earlier, Kathy's doing a class this afternoon at a listing, and she said this listing has everything you could possibly imagine. From shared
Everybody
driveways
should go.
to geothermal heat to you name it. So go out and join Kathy and learn about rural properties in addition to how to have conversations. Also, we've got a panel coming up. Ben Jones, Denny Gray, Rima Bazarbashi, and Emily Keener are going to be on this panel on July 10th from 3 to 4:30. And they're going to talk about lead generation tactics. As you can see, these guys were on the board. So come learn what they're doing for lead generation. As I mentioned, our picnic next month, save the date. It'll be at lunchtime hour, but we'll give you the details. The fund committee's working on it right now. Profit share for the month. All right. I'm going to ask our sponsor to come up because we promised him he could talk at 12:15 because he has a commitment. So go ahead and begin. All right, come on in. Yes. And if you don't mind, stand close to this area, and we'll come back to the last couple slides.
Yes.
Thank you first.
Who said Tracy?
Everybody know you.
Yeah, you want me to just roll with it?
Yeah, just go ahead and introduce yourself.
You want to play it? We don't have.
I don't think it clicks. It's anybody ever try to send a PowerPoint and it's literally like too large for the email? Okay, so thanks for having me. My name is Eli Weichert. I have been with the CoStar group of companies here for about 2.5 years. I have bumped elbows with a chunk of you through this period of time. Some of you guys may know me as the commercial person, but since I don't know, 6 months ago, we decided to dip our toe in the residential network. But if you want to go ahead and go next, I don't know if anybody knows of CoStar or is familiar. Stop on that one. But you might recognize us from this larger family of brands. CoStar Group is essentially like the commercial version of the MLS. We're a large data company helping commercial agents find off-market deals, sales comps, market intel, things like that. But we also own LoopNet, Apartments.com, Land, BizBuySell, 10X. We purchased Homes.com about 2 years ago, and we decided to kind of set our sights on the residential network and deploy the same playbook that we have used with commercial. So when we bought Apartments and LoopNet 6-7 years ago, they were like number 8, 9, 10 on the Google algorithm. Now Apartments.com is pretty much the only place you're gonna go to rent an apartment. And LoopNet is probably the only place you're gonna go buy a commercial deal if you are kind of an end user. So go to the next one. So we did a lot of focus groups before kind of diving into the residential side, but essentially this is what we found as kind of the state of the residential world and what people like versus what people don't like. Especially listing brokers don't necessarily love when somebody's shopping around for a home, they decide to schedule a tour and then 50 other agents start to kind of blow them up. So what we have done is kind of build out this your listing, your lead model. Essentially, it is like a LoopNet where you as the listing agent are actually featured first, foremost and only as the agent point of contact for your listings. So what we're doing is really building exposure for you and for your client, which I'll talk about in a second. We'll roll to the next one. The other thing, we don't have our own in-house brokerage team. So you're never competing against our own agents or our own sales reps for business. Go to the next one. We're gonna skip that because I don't have it in front of me. Homes.com does function as you would expect a tool too, but we do have kind of an overview on neighborhoods, school districts, things like that. Essentially though, the reason that a lot of people are investing in a monthly exposure membership, we call them member agents, is basically to piggyback on a $1 billion marketing campaign through Homes.com. So we'll roll to the next one. You might have noticed we had 4 Super Bowl ads. Next one, our CEO said on the last earnings call that during the Paris Olympics, all you're gonna see is sports and Homes.com. So as we see an anticipated even greater jump in traffic, our member agents are the ones who are being showcased at the top of people who are doing deals, searching for houses on Homes.com. Go to the next one. We're on lots and lots of networks. You'll probably catch some ads. This is part of a $1 billion marketing campaign. Roll to the next one. Something else in terms of value for our agents, we give you guys, we give you a few different things. So number one is retargeting. So this is a picture I actually took on, I think it was MSN, just reading an article about house hacking. So Sherry Smith actually was like 2/3 of my page when I clicked on it. It's her brand and her listing. So it, as part of like a Homes.com membership, you're actually getting some retargeting. Go to the next one. As well as some additional exposure. So one of the things that the membership really benefits agents on is winning new listings due to exposure. So this is one of my clients. I kept him anonymous. He's not a KW agent, but in the last, let's call it 2.5 months, he's gotten 1.1 million impressions on his brand and his listings just over the past couple months. Go to the next one. So didn't block him out here, but anybody who zooms in on a neighborhood that he's selling in is gonna see him and his houses featured at the very top of this every single time. So that's kind of that member agent piece. Every agent is already on there. You're already benefiting from potential exposure, but this is where amplifying your brand helps you win listings. Go to the next one. Because with this particular agent, I actually built this out as his rep. I'm here locally. We put together a servicing package that he can take to listing appointments and say, hey, you want to list with me because just one house alone, one channel I invest in, I'm getting you almost 500,000 views on your particular listing. Go to the next one. Yep. Here's the person who's listing next door. They have 2,000 views. So would you rather have 500,000 views and list with me through just one channel that I'm marketing through, or 2,000 views with the other person down the street? So competitive advantage, really marketing site. We do have leads. There's a whole thing about your listing your lead. All the numbers, all of the inbound stuff does go directly to you. We are not a lead redirection service. We are a your listing your lead service. But really the cornerstone of our value is essentially giving you lots of exposure to win more listings, retargeting, as well as the ability to piggyback off of a $1 billion marketing campaign. I hope that was about 4 minutes. That's it. I'm gonna pass around my cards. Like I said, so I am here locally. There is plenty of points of support after becoming a membership agent. I would love to have one-offs with anybody who's interested in learning a little bit more. Memberships vary based on the amount of markets that you are currently operating in. But if you want to pass those around, I ran out of homes cards. So some are homes, some are CoStar, but they're all the same person. But yeah, I'm here locally. I hope you enjoy the Panera. Appreciate you letting me come in. Any other questions you have on marketing, would love to just kind of run through sales strategies, marketing, whatever else.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Something I wanted to mention that your ALC is working on right now, Jensen and Tracy Nixon have been working on putting together videos of our top producers and how they're articulating value, the new agreements, et cetera. So you're gonna see a series of videos coming out soon, because everybody has a little different style and how they articulate, speak, explain, et cetera. So that's, I'm excited about that coming out. I meant to say that in Bucky Bills. Bill, the spill areas.
Yeah, I mean, it's a long meeting, so I don't want to take up much more of your time. Just a couple quick notes. One, Scott mentioned the changes with VA. That actually takes place August 10th, about a week before the disappearance of commissions. The only thing you guys really need to know is if you have a veteran buyer paying you directly, not getting cooperative compensation, you do need to include a copy of your buyer's agreement with the contract. The agent is required to see that there. Just one other thing, I've been talking to several of you about properties in the higher price range. Some are saying 7, some are saying over 800,000. Kind of getting a little slower. Obviously, that's probably because the trade-up buyers are not wanting to give up their 2.5% interest rates. Before you consider a price reduction, just a quick example. $899,000 house Jeff Kanowski was working with, they were considering a $50,000 price reduction. That would have made the monthly payment, principal and interest, more affordable for a buyer by $336. Okay? For $16,875, we put on the MLS a 2-1 seller paid buy down, reducing the monthly payment $930, plus protecting your commission. Okay, so the seller saved $33,000 versus a $50,000 price cut. And we kind of ran it as a well qualified buyer, putting 20% down. So to buy that $899,000 house with that 2-1 buy down payment was the equivalent of a buyer paying normal rates, buying a home for $727 and only financing $581. So almost $200,000 additional buying power. So yes, if you have a $400,000 house that's sitting, it's not going to quite look like this. But I just wanted you guys to realize price reduction doesn't help buyers as much as buy downs interest rate. The great thing about a temporary buy down is if they refinance in a year or two and haven't used all that buy down, it gets refunded to the buyer. Where if they do a permanent buy down and just pay a point or pay 2 points, refinance next year before they recoup their costs, it's money that's gone. So I have a really quick calculator. If you guys even just have something you'd like to know, what would this look like? Give me a call, 5-10 minutes. We can kind of give you some numbers. Then you can present to your seller, and I think they'll like that decision. So,
Great information. Thanks, Bill.
you're welcome.
All right. I saw Marshall here earlier, but I don't see him now. Just so you guys know, a couple things, they still are using the Mojo dialer, and our media room is getting ready to get a facelift. As soon as we can get the painter scheduled, the green wall is going away, and we have a stager coming in, and they're going to stage that area for you to be able to use to do your media, et cetera. So, look for that coming up here in the month of July.
Yes.
We have any Kathy, thought I saw Kathy Motsinger.
She was here.
Okay. So Northwest. Oh, Rachel, how much is in the Queen of Hearts?
Oh, a lot of money, I think, but
We'll have her announce that, and then you can buy tickets while we're getting lunch.
right now, the Queen of Hearts, is worth $358. $358. So the tickets are, 2 for $5 and
5 for 10.
5 for $10. And then we'll have lunch money, so if the money gets split 3 different ways. And then we'll draw a ticket for, you can either pick lunch money or pick the Queen of Hearts. Or, and then, yeah, you could choose. That makes sense?
You get your choice. If you win, if you get their first ticket drawn, you have your choice. You can take the lunch money, collect it for today.
Yeah.
Or you can draw a card to try to get the Queen of Hearts and get all the money. If you choose the lunch money, then we draw again for the second person.
Thank you.
So, yeah. And I know Kathy wants to talk about coffee with council, because we're excited about it.
Yes, I have, two things I do want to talk about. I apologize. I was in a closing, so I had to walk away, but, Northwest Title has moved off of Sunbury Road onto Shrine. I have flyers, please, if we can note that. So if you are gonna be doing a cookie with the Northwest, it's our Westerville office. We have moved, here's directions, got plenty of flyers up there. And then also, we are going to have coffee with council. It's gonna be next Wednesday. It's gonna be 2 hours, and a lot of the questions that I heard you guys asking, they will be going over that also, because I know the had mentioned, like, is there any attorneys here or whatever? We will have attorneys at this session. I put the flyers out there, but, oh, it's Thursday, excuse me, it's Thursday, June 27th from 10 to 12.
And you should have received an e-bike for it, to respond to e-bike, just so we know.
That's here, right?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yes.
yeah, if you could just respond, because I will grade some, like, morning treats and stuff. I just want to make sure I have enough. So, and thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, everybody. I know we had a lot of info, but I think it's all great info.
Yes, a question really quick.
Yeah.
We have all great agents in here.
Yes.
I'm